Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today for our regular Thursday lecture. My name is Victoria. I'm the outreach coordinator for the Education USA network here in Ukraine. And you may have already heard of us, but just to reiterate, we are the official source on US higher education, offering accurate, comprehensive, and unbiased information about opportunities to study at accredited colleges and universities in the United States. And today we've got a very exciting lecture for you. We're going to talk about pursuing your degree in the United States. I know that many students from around the world want to obtain their higher education degree in the United States. And one of the criteria for US university selection is, of course, the location. So when working on your university research, you might be interested in a specific region or state where you want to study because you find it more suitable for your educational or career goals. And many students often ask, is the experience of studying different in different states? Do you want to know the peculiarities and benefits of academic experience and student life in various states in the United States? Then stay tuned with us today. We've got a wonderful guest speaker joining us, Adem Althor, who's Interim Director at the Office of International Programs at Saginaw Valley State University. And Adem is going to share some tips and tricks on choosing the best university for you. We will, of course, have time for questions, so please do not hesitate to reach out to us and put your questions in the comments. Adem, it's such a pleasure to have you with us today, and the floor is yours. Take it away.
All right, thank you so much, Victoria, and it is wonderful to be with you all today. I hope that you will all interact and post questions as I'm talking. But I have been at Saginaw Valley State University for almost 9 years now, serving international students. I do a little bit of recruiting, but my main job is to assist our international students when they arrive here and throughout their program. And actually tomorrow, I'll be going to commencement. So that's kind of the end goal, is to see students graduate, which is always a very special time. So I have a PowerPoint to share with you where I'm going to be talking about regional differences in the United States. I'll go through the PowerPoint, and then at the end, I'll talk a little bit about our university in what's known as the Midwest, Michigan. Okay, so on the first slide here, let me advance this. I've got a picture of a deer on campus, and I actually took this picture on one of my walks. I routinely go for walks during my lunch, and it gives you a feel for what our university campus is like. We're kind of in a wooded / valley area. We're called Saginaw Valley, so it's very green. The air is fresh. Which to some students is very kind of shocking and surprising when they arrive. But a little bit about my story. I was born in Florida, which of course is in the South, very hot state. But I quickly moved to New Hampshire, which is in New England. New England is the region of the United States where Boston, Massachusetts is. New England has 6 states: Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont. It is the northeast part of the United States. It does get cold, but it's very beautiful, and there happen to be a lot of excellent universities in New England. But by the time I graduated from high school, I wanted to go somewhere new, right? I wanted to see something new, meet new people, so I went to Virginia, which is sometimes referred to as the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, just a couple hours from the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. I went to a university called James Madison University, good public university in the Shenandoah Valley region of Virginia. And after I graduated from college, I actually went to Yemen for 3 years I have some family in Yemen, so I was getting to know them and studying the Arabic language. And then I went to Cairo, Egypt for another 3 years. So I spent about 5 to 6 years in the Middle East after college, studying Arabic, among other things. I also went to graduate school in Cairo. But then I came back and I wanted to use my Arabic that I had spent so much time studying. And I was really interested in staying in a university. I wanted to work in a university. So I ended up at Saginaw Valley State University in Michigan, in part because there were a lot of Arabic speaking students at Saginaw Valley, which we call SVSU. I'm going to start saying SVSU. It's a little bit easier to say. So I ended up here at SVSU, and I had actually never been to Michigan. So I'll talk about how I interpreted that a little bit as we move along. So let's go to the next slide now. So here's a few reasons why geography matters. And the reason I picked this topic is because many students, especially at the high school age, are not thinking about which region of the US they want to study in. Maybe you're thinking about big cities like New York City, or maybe you're thinking of Hollywood because that's where the movies come from, Southern California, Los Angeles. But there's all these other parts of the United States that have so much to offer. Different industries are located in different parts of the United States. There's also differences in cost. If you want to go to New York City, you have to pay a premium to live there. So cost of living is one reason why geography matters. So jobs and industrial clusters, different industrial clusters are located in different parts. So you've probably heard of Silicon Valley. We'll touch on that. That's in California. Where we are in Michigan, we're known for the automotive industry, car industry. So the country is kind of broken up into these different clusters. And if you know what interests you and what industry you want to get into, you can think about that as you're applying to universities. Distractions and nightlife, another very important thing. Are you a city person, or are you comfortable in the suburbs or the country? Not everybody is built for a city life. Okay, you go to a city, you've got a lot of distractions. That's something to think about. Quality of life and fresh air. Maybe you've been living in a bustling city for a long time and you're ready to find some peace and quiet where you can really focus on your studies. If you're going to be doing a major like mechanical engineering, which is one of our most popular majors, you're going to be spending a lot of time on your academics. That is to say, your homework, your classwork, your research, your extracurriculars. And you need to put yourself in an environment where you can focus on those things, right? And then cultural differences. Different parts of the country have different degrees of diversity. Okay, we'll touch on that as well as we go into the presentation. So I hope you're excited. Feel free to post questions. Okay. So here's the United States map. The US is a very big country. Does anyone know how big Ukraine is relative to the United States? There's one state that is about the size of Ukraine. Do you know what that is? So I looked it up. Texas is a little bit bigger than Ukraine. Okay, so you probably have a good sense of how big your own country is. So that should tell you that the US is really spread out. From East Coast to West Coast, that's a long, long way that you probably need to fly to get from one side to the other. There's some people that drive, but it's a long distance. So the colors here show the different regions of the US. And we're going to go to each one and talk about some of the differences. Okay, let's start with New England. So New England is this northeast region that is orange. I mentioned the states. Well, sorry, this is greater than New England. This is just the northeast in general. So it includes Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, D.C. So this is a cold region. They definitely get all 4 seasons. And I apologize if my video is flashing a little bit. I'm noticing that on my screen. So Boston is one of the main cities in the Northeast, Boston, Massachusetts. Boston is home to Harvard, MIT, a lot of really excellent schools, Boston College, which is a Catholic school, Boston University, which is a large public university. I grew up just about an hour from Boston in the north. Okay, I'm going to stop my video real quick and try again. Okay, I'm seeing the same issue. Let me try. Let me pause. Since we're focusing mainly on the PowerPoint, let me just turn the video off briefly and just focus on the pictures here. Boston is a historic, very beautiful city, one of the oldest cities in our country. Let me try to get a different camera running here. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to switch to a different camera. And see if that works.
So Adem is having technical issues, but don't worry, we'll get back to his presentation right away. And while we wait, I would just like to encourage all of you to reach out to us and send in your questions, send in your reactions. We'll be more than happy to answer all of them and interact with you. Adem, it's glad to see you back, so please go on.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so I'm on a different camera now. Boston, excellent place to study. One of the things you should know about Boston, however, is it is a more expensive place to live. You could be paying 2 to 3 times as much as you would be paying in the Midwest or the South or a rural suburban campus that is outside of the city. So you pay a big premium to live in a place like Boston or New York City. But the schools there are just fantastic, really the best reputation that that schools have in our country. Okay, so the White Mountains, this is if you go north of Boston, a couple of hours into New Hampshire and Maine, you start to get some really beautiful scenery. Population gets a lot more sparse, so it's not heavily populated like a city. So if you like that, if you like the more outdoor adventure, you can look into states like Maine and New Hampshire. Okay, Vermont as well. These are states that are known for really exceptional outdoor beauty, where you can have a campus life that involves skiing, backpacking, hiking, all these really wonderful things out in the fresh air in the mountains. All right, let's go now to the South. Okay, the South is this group of yellow states here with Florida at the bottom. You've probably heard of Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia borders Florida. If you go up the East Coast, you go to South Carolina, North Carolina. North Carolina is home to Duke University. the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, one of our country's most famous public universities. And then Virginia is really a border state. It's kind of on the border of being a northern or a southern state, but a lot of good schools in Virginia as well. University of Alabama, known for its football program and athletics, if that means anything to you. International students sometimes don't really care about the football program, and that's like me, not always that important to students. Louisiana, you've got New Orleans, one of our great American cities, very unique culture there. So Florida is a state with a lot of different university options. You've got a lot of coastline if you're interested in marine biology, or if you're interested in hospitality. That is to say, the hotel industry, the cruise ship industry, restaurants, tourism. Hospitality is a big cluster in Florida. So if you're thinking you want to get into one of those industries, you may go right to Miami, South Florida, where some of those companies are headquartered. Because that's where not only can you get the right major, but you may be able to get a nice internship in the summertime, or maybe you can graduate and then get an inroad into a job for OPT, which allows you to work for a year to 3 years after graduation. Very hot in Florida. It's not for everybody. I myself, I like to see the 4 seasons over the course of the year. Florida, it's really warm weather all year round, and in the summer, it is incredibly hot. Okay, Washington, D.C. now. Washington, D.C., north of Virginia, south of Maryland. It's technically not a state, but it is our nation's capital. You're looking at the Washington Monument, very famous obelisk, which was erected in honor of George Washington, our nation's first president. Lots of things happening in Washington, D.C., and it is a great place to study public policy, international affairs. That's probably where you find the Ukrainian embassy. Good place to network there, perhaps do an internship with the embassy or the consulate. So if you're interested in those fields, Washington, D.C. is a great place to be. A lot of universities in that area. George Mason is in Northern Virginia, the greater Washington, D.C. area. American University is in Washington, D.C. proper. So right there, kind of in the downtown area. George Washington University is also right downtown Washington, D.C. Georgetown, another famous university in Washington, D.C. All of those schools are known for having excellent programs in international affairs, public policy. Okay, let's go now to this blue region here, also in the South. Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Arizona. This is kind of the southwest area, with Texas being more squarely in the south. Now, a couple things about Texas and Oklahoma. This is a great place to study oil-related industries. Okay, Texas and Oklahoma is where most of our oil industry is located. So if you are interested in more of the engineering that relates to the oil industry, then that would be a great place to study. Texas is also a state that has many big cities: Houston, El Paso, Dallas, Fort Worth, Austin, Texas. Lots of big metropolitan areas in Texas. Now, and I think I have a picture for that as well. Yeah, here's a picture of our oil industry. Arizona and New Mexico have rich Latino traditions. Lots of Spanish being spoken. It's a very welcoming place for diverse cultures like the Hispanic cultures. So you find lots of people who perhaps their ancestors originated from South America, Central America. Lots of good food in these areas as well. Warm weather. It is pretty much a desert climate for the most part. So it's hot, dry weather. No snow in the winter time. Okay, now we're going closer to the West Coast. California is that big state on the West Coast. We've got other states like Nevada, that's NV. That's where Las Vegas is. Again, a lot of hospitality and tourism there. Utah, Colorado, Wyoming. You've got the Rocky Mountains and a lot of outdoor adventures there. Again, Salt Lake City in Utah, the ski mountains of Colorado. And then up in the north, you've got Montana, Washington, the home of Seattle. Oregon, between Washington and California, you've got Portland, Oregon. San Francisco here is what's referred to as Northern California. This is where Silicon Valley is. Beautiful part of the country. Of course, you've got the Golden Gate Bridge there in the background. You've got Silicon Valley. So if you're interested in the tech sector, artificial intelligence, computer engineering, computer information systems, this is kind of the mecca in the US, where you've got a lot of our very big tech companies, HP, Oracle, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Lyft, and you can see some of the other names on there as well. It is very expensive to live in California in general, Silicon Valley, and the San Francisco Bay Area in particular. So it will cost you a lot more to live there, but maybe it will pay off based on the degree that you're going to get and the job that you may get afterwards. So that's something, again, to think about. Now we go down to Southern California. You've got Hollywood and the film industry. Great place to be if you want to get into film production, theater, acting. This is an excellent place to study, is Southern California. And of course, it has a lot more to offer as well, but that's just one cluster that you'll find in Southern California. Okay, let's go now to the Midwest. Midwest are these green states. Of course, we are in Michigan. Michigan looks kind of like a mitten. That's what we say. Michigan is the mitten state. Ohio is under Michigan. Indiana, Illinois is IL. That is where Chicago is located. Wisconsin, and then Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota. The Great Plains is kind of the environment that a lot of the Midwest is in. It is very flat. There is a lot of agricultural industry. I don't know if Ukraine is big on agriculture. Okay, so if you're interested in farming, agriculture, great place to study. Michigan is known for the automotive industry. So all of the major auto companies in the US have headquarters in Michigan. Ford, GMC, Chevrolet, Buick. Not just that, but there's Japanese auto companies that have big operations in Michigan. Toyota, Subaru, Honda. So it is a major hub for the auto industry. Where we are in Saginaw, which is kind of right up on the bank of Lake Huron, the biggest company is called Nexteer, and they make the steering equipment for the auto industry. So Michigan schools generally have good programs in mechanical and electrical engineering, computer science, computer engineering. Artificial intelligence is becoming more popular. Electric vehicles is becoming a big area. So if you like math, you want to get into engineering, maybe Michigan is for you. You may have also noticed that Michigan is surrounded by the Great Lakes. Okay, so Chicago is right on the bank of Lake Michigan. We are on Lake Huron. These are some of the biggest freshwater lakes in the world. A great place to study biology, water quality, plant life, fish, all those things, but it's also just a beautiful place to visit. You could see here a nice scene from what we call Sleeping Bear Dunes on the west side of the state of Michigan. You get out there and you're looking out, it looks like you're at the ocean because it is such a big body of water that you cannot see to the other side. And it just looks like the ocean, but it's a lake. It's a freshwater lake. It's great for swimming. There's no sharks, so you don't have to worry about that. It's just a really beautiful place to be, particularly in the summer. And here's a picture of our Great Lakes. Lake Erie is down on the east side of Michigan. Cleveland, just on the southern part of Lake Erie, where Ohio is. And Niagara Falls, you may have heard of, which is on the New York side by Lake Ontario. That's our biggest waterfall. Great place to visit. Okay, so that concludes my PowerPoint. Before I start talking a little bit about our university in particular, are there any questions that you have about the regions of the U.S.?
So thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation, Adam. It was really enjoyable and very informative. And while we wait for questions, I would like to read out a question we've got from Carilla. So Carilla is wondering about online education in America. Are there any programs for students who are interested in distance learning?
Yes. Most universities have some degree of distance learning options. That is to say, online classes. Some classes that are online are what we call synchronous, which means they are taking place in real time with the professor. So you do have to be aware of time zone differences. Asynchronous online classes are kind of at your own pace. You can click the lecture, watch it at any time. You don't need to be participating in real time. So a bit more flexible. But yes, a lot of universities have distance learning. One question you need to ask universities, though, is can you actually complete an entire degree online? Because at a school like us, uh, our bachelor's degree programs are designed to be completed face to face. We do have some online classes, but we don't have any bachelor's degree programs which you can complete the entire thing online.
Thank you so much for your answer. I think that's really helpful to know. And yes, so another question I often get asked by my students would be one about funding. So a lot of our students are wondering, are there any funding opportunities or scholarships specifically designed for Ukrainian students? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so we offer a scholarship to all international students, which lowers the tuition rate very close to what we call the in-state rate. Okay, that's the rate that an American citizen from Michigan would pay. And we are one of the more affordable universities in the state of Michigan. Michigan is a low-cost state. So the value that we offer is really one of our main selling points. And that's a scholarship, we call it the Red and White Scholarship, that we offer to all international students, regardless of what your citizenship is. So it could be Ukraine, could be Egypt, could be China. So that one's available to everyone. We do have, in addition to that, some private scholarships that are more specific. Basically, you'd apply for admission. We would give you all the academic scholarships that we can offer you automatically. And then you can look at the specific offerings of private scholarships that we have and and apply for those. Now, my recommendation would be go online and Google Ukrainian Scholarship USA and just see what you can find. There are scholarships that are specifically for Ukrainians, but you really want to, after you've done that research, you want to figure out what is your net cost going to be. Because a lot of students, they disregard net cost and they just look at scholarships. They just look at the amount of funding they're getting from the school, and they're not looking at the cost, because you want to look at the cost and then how much can you lower that with a scholarship, and that's your net cost. Because I could give you a $20,000 scholarship, but if my tuition is $80,000, then your net cost is still $60,000, which is a lot of money. So it's better to have a $10,000 scholarship if the tuition is only $30,000, because then you're down to $20,000 and your net cost is lower.
Thank you so much for such a wonderful answer. And I would just like to add, for any students who are interested in seeking financial funding, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to share with you resources and the information we have available on different opportunities for Ukrainian students. So please reach out to us, stay in contact, or sign up for a free consultation. So Adam, I'll hand it back to you.
Great, and I'm going to play a video for you now, which will give you a good picture of what our campus looks like. You can see that we are what you'd call a suburban campus. We are not in the city. We are about 90 minutes from Detroit. Detroit is, some of you have heard of, it's a big US city, known for the automotive sector. And we're 90 minutes up the road from Detroit. Very green campus, lots of fresh air. I've been here for 9 years, and the first thing our international students always say is, this is a beautiful campus. Okay, and this week where students are graduating, the last thing I hear them saying is that the people are so nice here. So it's a very welcoming environment, very easy to get to know your professors. We have small class sizes, so we have a big emphasis on making it easy for students to talk to professors, get to know them, go get extra help, ask about internships, ask about faculty-led research, because some of these big universities, and this is another thing that students overlook in the college search process, look into how big the school is, because there are schools that are 30, 40, 50,000 students. We have about 7,000. So if you're going to a school with 50,000, you have to understand you are going to be just a number, and it's going to be extremely competitive to get these internship opportunities. And the classes may be so big that the professor never learns your name, and you kind of just get lost in the mix. So that's why, for me personally, I'm a big proponent of the small to mid-size university, because when you come, especially as an international student, you don't have any connections yet. You're building from the ground up, and you really need to have an environment that welcomes you and helps you to take advantage of the opportunities. And SVSU does a very good job of that. International Student Club, you can see some pictures here from our pep rally. That is a very big point of emphasis at SVSU. Every university has some kind of international student club, but at SVSU, we really put a lot into it. My colleague, Pat, is the advisor to the club. He meets with them every week. This is the holy event for our South Asian students. And the International Student Club is really the best way for a new international student to meet fellow international students. And it becomes a great social group. It often will lead to other things, um, perhaps work opportunities, perhaps club involvement. There's all sorts of clubs at the university. So International Student Club, great thing to get involved in. If you don't mind just playing that video again, I'll speak about a few other things on there. I think I can do that. Yeah, let me play that back. We also have a Formula One racing team. So this is something that you won't find at every university, but it's big with us because of the auto sector and mechanical engineering. So it is run by our mechanical engineering department. And I played that video again. I don't see it up on the big screen, though, if you can get it up on the big screen. But Formula One racing team, another great club to join. International Student Club. We've got different academic clubs. We've got different fraternities, sororities that you can join. And we've got a lot of on-campus employment opportunities as well. International students can work on campus up to 20 hours a week in the fall and the winter. And then in the summer, they can work full-time. So this is a great way. Again, if you are concerned about the cost, this is a great way to supplement your funding to get a little income. For the past couple of years, we've had a lot of student employment jobs available. And in Michigan, the minimum wage is $10.65 an hour. So do the math. If you're working 20 hours a week, there's 14 weeks in the semester. So 14 times 2 is your fall and winter. You can make over $5,000 over the course of the year. And then if you work in the spring and summer, that is from May through August, you're adding to that. So if you are shrewd with your money, if you budget well and save your money, you can pay for some of your cost of attendance through that employment. And our offices on campus are thrilled with our international students because they work so hard. They just have a great reputation for doing excellent work at the various offices that they work for on campus. Okay, are there any other questions for me?
Thank you, Adam, for such an exciting presentation. I think it was really fascinating to get an inside look into the Saginaw Valley State University and just learn more about opportunities for international students in particular. So while we wait for questions, I actually have another one of my own, if you don't mind.
Please.
And that would be regarding assistantships. So are assistantship positions available to international students, and what would be the requirements for that?
Yeah, so we have some graduate assistantships. They are managed by the various graduate programs. And we have 2 different graduate programs that F1 students are eligible for. The rest are online programs. So those are the MBA program, which happens to be a STEM MBA program, which means you'd be eligible for the 3 years of OPT. And we have a Master of Science in Computer Science and Information Systems. So those are the 2 main master's degree programs that we offer to international students. We do have 2 more, Master of Social Work and a Master of Occupational Therapy. But those are more specialized programs. But aside from that, on-campus employment is very popular. Faculty-led research is very popular. And the other form of employment is CPT, curricular practical training, which is basically off-campus work that is integral to your program. And in our local area, we do have a lot of companies that hire our international students. A lot of them are related to the automotive industry, but there are a whole host of companies that hire our international students for things like business, computer science. Nursing is also very popular with us. We have 2 large hospitals in Saginaw that hire a lot of our students on CPT. So what I like about Saginaw is we are not in a big city, but we are not so far away where there's nothing to do and there's no business going on. We are in a nice kind of, compromise between urban and rural, which is really suburban. That's what suburban is. Where we've got all the restaurants you could want, all the shopping malls and retail, and a lot of companies. So you don't have to go far to get a good internship or off-campus job here in Saginaw.
Thank you so much for such an encouraging answer. And we actually got a question from Sandra. So Sandra is wondering, well, first of all, Sandra is thanking you for such a wonderful presentation, but she would like to know what states or what universities you would recommend to students with no driver's license. So maybe universities with a good system of public transportation or a lot of facilities available within walking distance.
That's an excellent question. So the big cities will have better public transportation. That's true. So better buses, maybe even a subway system, a metro system. Where we are, we would recommend that for year 1, you live on campus. It's not required. You'd have the option to live off campus, but it's usually better if you can live on campus because you're close to classes, you're close to everything else that's going on campus, which is events, activities, extracurriculars, your on-campus job if you have one. So it's better to live on campus where you don't need a car. Now, 2, that's where you're actually thinking about getting a car. You don't have to, and some of our students do not. Some of our students never get a car. They live close to campus or they take the bus. We do have a bus system. But just to give you an idea, the buses here, they come on the hour. Whereas if you're in a big city, maybe there's a bus coming every 5 minutes. So that's kind of an analogy to how public transportation differs from a place where we are to a more urban setting. But if it were me, you can save up and get a used car and get a driver's license. And that's really going to open a lot of doors for you. So a lot of students go that route.
Thank you so much for your answer. And a final question on my part would be one regarding the application process. So are there any common mistakes you see international students make when sending in their applications?
So we have a very straightforward application. We are a school that does not require SAT. We do not require an essay, a statement of purpose, resume. We don't need any of that. Your admission to SVSU is based on your high school grades. Okay, that's the main thing we're looking for. If you are still in high school, you would be eligible to apply after you've completed grade 11. And then you would be admitted, and we would just ask that you bring a copy of your final transcript when you come to campus. But very straightforward application. You can fill it out in about a half hour's time. And we do ask for an English language proficiency score. So IELTS, TOEFL, Duolingo, SAT, of course, would work as well. But we do require an English language score as well.
Thank you so much for such an encouraging answer. And a bit in connection with my previous question, what would be the traits that would make a student really stand out to the admission officers, or maybe how would you describe your ideal student?
Well, I mean, the main metric we look at is GPA, and we compute a GPA on our own. So it's very possible that you don't know what your GPA is. We figure that out for you. So you don't need to get any kind of third-party evaluation for us. We do need the English language version of the transcript. So that's the only thing we need. But we do have some additional scholarships that we can add based on GPA. In fact, if you've got a 3.7 GPA or higher, which is like basically an A average, then we can add an additional scholarship that would get you right on the in-state rate, making it a really good value. But the fact is, some of our students, I mean, we realize that many of our students, when you come to us in August of your freshman year, you are not a finished product yet. You know, you've got a lot of growing to do. And I see that over the course of the 4 or 5 years, that students, they transform. You know, they go from caterpillars to butterflies, right? And the things that you learn, not just the academics, but just how to conduct yourself, how to have a job and be punctual and be organized and be courteous and professional and all these things. We see that develop over the course of the 4 years. So we have that understanding that when you come, you know, you're not a finished product yet, right? And that's really where we try to excel, is helping you along the way to be ready by the time you graduate to either go to grad school or start your career.
Thank you so much for your answer and for such an informative and fascinating presentation. I really enjoyed talking to you and learning from you, and I would like to encourage our students who are interested in studying at the SVSU University to please do not hesitate to reach out to us or maybe to Adem directly, and just put down your questions. And of course, you can check out the websites we've just put up on screen and learn more about the university and its offers for international students. For any of you who are interested in learning more about funding or ways to look for universities and choosing your best fit, please do not hesitate to reach out to EducationUSA Ukraine. We're always here to help you, and we'll be more than happy to provide you with a list of resources and other helpful tips and pieces of advice that will help you on your journey to US study. Thank you once again, Adem, for such an enjoyable meeting. I wish you all a wonderful evening. I wish you the best of luck in your studies. Stay safe and stay with EducationUSA.
Thank you so much.